Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jai Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. We're continuing our reading of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, inching our way towards the goal of finishing the Madhya Lila. May have to have an emergency session later tonight. Tomorrow's Ekadashi, so we'll be fasting till death and reading all day long until we finish. But as for right now, we're in the Madhya Lila, chapter 24, explanations of the Atmarama verse. And we'll take up at text 221. As mentioned above, the word cha can be used to mean aggregate. According to this meaning, all the Atmaramas and Munis engage in Krishna service. Besides aggregate, there is another meaning of the word cha. The word nigranta can be used as an adjective, and api can be used in the sense of certainty. For instance, Rama's cha, Krishna's cha means that both Rama and Krishna enjoy walking in the forest. Because it is said that both Rama and Krishna enjoy wandering in the forest, it is understood that both of them are enjoying their tour within the forest. The word cha can also present a secondary thing to be done at the same time. This way of understanding the word cha is called nvakaye. An example is, O brahmachari, go out and collect alms and at the same time bring in the cows. Saintly persons who are always meditating upon Krishna are engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. The Atmaramas are also engaged in the Lord's service. That is the indirect import. The anvachaye meaning of the word cha indicates that between the two words compounded by the word cha, one is given more importance, and the other is considered subordinate. For example, O brahmachari, please go out and collect alms and at the same time bring in the cows. In this statement, the collection of alms is of first importance, and the second business of collecting the cows is subordinate. Similarly, one who always meditates upon Krishna is mainly a devotee of Krishna engaged in his devotional service. Other Atmaramas are subordinate in devotional service. The word cha can also be used to indicate the certainty that only saintly persons are engaged in rendering devotional service to Krishna. In the combination Atmarama, api is used in the sense of censure. The word nigranta can be taken as an adjective modifying Muni and Atmarama. There is another meaning which you may hear from me, indicating association with a devotee. Now I shall explain how it is that through the association of devotees, even a nigranta can become a devotee. The word nigranta, when combined with api, used in the sense of certainty, indicates a person who is a hunter by profession or who is very poor. Nonetheless, when such a person associates with a great saint like Narada, he engages in Lord Krishna's devotional service. The words Krishna Ramascha refer to one who takes pleasure in thinking of Krishna. Even though such a person may be a hunter, he is still worshipable and is the best of devotees. I shall now narrate the story of how a hunter became a great devotee by the association of such an exalted personality as Narada Muni. From this story, one can understand the greatness of association with pure devotees. Once upon a time, the great saint Narada, after visiting Lord Narayan in the Vaikunthas, went to Prayag to bathe in the confluence of three rivers, the Ganges, Jamuna, and Saraswati. The great Saint Narada is so liberated that he can go to the Vaikuntha planets to see Narayan, and then immediately come to this planet in the material world and go to Prayag to bathe in the confluence of 3 rivers. The word Triveni refers to a confluence of 3 rivers. This confluence is still visited by many hundreds of thousands of people who go there to bathe, especially during the Magh Mela, which occurs during the month of January. A liberated person who has no material body can go anywhere and everywhere. Therefore, a living entity is called Sarvaga, which indicates that he can go anywhere and everywhere. Presently, scientists are trying to go to other planets, but due to their material bodies, they are not free to move at will. However, when one is situated in his original spiritual body, he can move anywhere and everywhere without difficulty. Within this material world, there is a planet called Siddhaloka, whose inhabitants can go from one planet to another without the aid of a machine or space rocket. In the material world, every planet has a specific advantage, vibhuti binna. In the spiritual world, however, all the planets and their inhabitants are composed of spiritual energy. Because there are no material impediments, it is said that everything in the spiritual world is one. Narada Muni saw that a deer was lying on the path through the forest and that Narada Muni saw that a deer was lying on the path through the forest and that it was pierced by an arrow. It had broken legs and was twisting due to much pain. Farther ahead, Narada Muni saw a boar pierced by an arrow. Its legs were also broken and it was twisting in pain. When he went farther, he saw a rabbit that was also suffering. Narada Muni was greatly pained at heart to see living entities suffer so. When Narada Muni advanced farther, he saw a hunter behind a tree. This hunter was holding arrows, and he was ready to kill more animals. The hunter's body was blackish, he had reddish eyes, and he appeared fierce. It was as if the superintendent of death, Yamaraj, were standing there with a bow and arrows in his hands. When Narada Muni left the forest path and went to the hunter, all the animals immediately saw him and fled. When all the animals fled, the hunter wanted to chastise Narada with abusive language, but due to Narada's presence, he could not utter anything abusive. The hunter addressed Narada Muni, "O Goswami, O great saintly person, why have you left the general path through the forest to come to me? Simply by seeing you, all the animals I was hunting have now fled." Narada Muni replied, "Leaving the path, I have come to see you to settle a doubt that is in my mind. I was wondering whether all the boars and other animals that are half killed belong to you." The hunter replied, "Yes, what you are saying is so." Narada Muni then inquired, "Why did you not kill the animals completely? Why did you half kill them by piercing their bodies with arrows?" The hunter replied, "My dear saintly person, my name is Mrigrari, enemy of animals. My father taught me to kill them in that way. When I see half-killed animals suffer, I feel great pleasure." Narada Muni then told the hunter, "I have one thing to beg of you." The hunter replied, "You may take whatever animals or anything else you would like. I have many skins. If you would like them, I can give you either a deer skin or a tiger skin." Narada Muni said, "I do not want any of the skins. I am asking only one thing from you in charity. I beg you that from this day on you will kill animals completely and not leave them half dead." The hunter replied, "My dear sir, what are you asking of me? What is wrong with the animals lying there half killed? Will you please explain this to me?" Narada Muni replied, "If you leave the animals half dead, you are purposefully giving them pain. Therefore, you will have to suffer in retaliation." This is an authoritative statement given by the greatest authority, Narada Muni. If one gives another living entity unnecessary pain, one will certainly be punished by the laws of nature with a similar pain. Although the hunter Mrigrari was uncivilized, he still had to suffer the results of his sinful activities. However, if a civilized man kills animals regularly in a slaughterhouse to maintain his so-called civilization, using scientific methods and machines to kill animals, one cannot even estimate the suffering awaiting him. So-called civilized people consider themselves very advanced in education, but they do not know about the stringent laws of nature. According to nature's law, it is a life for a life. We can hardly imagine the sufferings of one who maintains a slaughterhouse. He endures suffering not only in this life, but in his next life also. It is said that a hunter, murderer, or killer is advised not to live and not to die. If he lives, he accumulates even more sins, which brings about more suffering in a future life. He is advised not to die because his dying means that he immediately begins to endure more suffering. Therefore, he is advised not to live and not to die. As followers of the Vedic principles, we accept the statements of Narada Muni in this regard. It is our duty to see that no one suffers due to sinful activities. Foolish rascals are described in the Bhagavad Gita as Maya Pritagyana, which indicates that although they are superficially educated, Maya has taken their real knowledge away. Such people are presently leading human society. In Srimad Bhagavatam, they are described as Anda Yatandar Upaniyamana. These rascals are themselves blind, and yet they are leading others who are blind. When people follow such leaders, they suffer unlimited pains in the future. Despite so-called advancement, all this is happening. Who is safe? Who is happy? Who is without anxiety? Narada Muni continued, "My dear hunter, your business is killing animals. That is a slight offense on your part. But when you consciously give them unnecessary pain by leaving them half dead, you incur very great sins." This is another good instruction to animal killers. There is always animal killers and animal eaters in human society, because less civilized people are accustomed to eating meat. In the Vedic civilization, meat eaters are advised to kill an animal for the goddess Kali, or a similar demigod. This is in order not to give the animal unnecessary pain, as slaughterhouses do. In the Balidana, sacrifice to a demigod, it is recommended to cut the throat of an animal with one slice. This should be done on a dark moon night, and the painful noises expressed by the animal at that time of being slaughtered are not to be heard by anyone. There are also many restrictions. Slaughter is only allowed once a month, and the killer of the animal has to suffer similar pains in his next life. At the present moment, so-called civilized men do not sacrifice animals to a deity in a religious or ritualistic way. They openly kill animals daily by the thousands for no purpose other than to satisfy the tongue. Because of this, the entire world is suffering in so many ways. Politicians are unnecessarily declaring war, and according to the stringent laws of material nature, massacres are taking place between nations. Prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvasha ahankara vimuthatma kartaham iti manyate. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of these three modes of material nature, thinks himself to be the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by nature. The laws of Prakriti, nature, are very stringent. No one should think that he has the freedom to kill animals and not suffer the consequences. One cannot be safe by doing this. Narada Muni herein says that animal killing is offensive, especially when animals are given unnecessary pain. Meat eaters and animal killers are advised not to purchase meat from the slaughterhouse. They can worship Kali once a month, kill some unimportant animal, and eat it. Even by following this method, one is still an offender. Narada Muni continued, "All the animals that you have killed and given unnecessary pain will kill you one after another in your next life and in life after life." This is another authoritative statement made by the sage, great sage, Narada. Those who kill animals and give them unnecessary pain as people do in slaughterhouses, will be killed in a similar way in the next life, and in many lives to come. One can never be excused from such an offense. If one kills many thousands of animals in a professional way, so that other people can purchase the meat to eat, one must be ready to be killed in a similar way in his next life, and in life after life. There are many rascals who violate their own religious principles. According to Judeo-Christian scriptures, it is clearly said, "Thou shalt not kill." Nonetheless, giving all kinds of excuses, even the heads of religions indulge in killing animals while trying to pass as saintly persons. This mockery and hypocrisy in human society bring about unlimited calamities. Therefore, occasionally, there are great wars. Masses of such people go out onto battlefields and kill themselves. Presently, they have discovered the atomic bomb, which is simply waiting to be used for wholesale destruction. If people want to be saved from the killing business life after life, they must take to Krishna consciousness and cease sinful activity. The International Site for Krishna Consciousness recommends that everyone abandon meat eating, illicit sex, intoxication, and gambling. When one gives up these sinful activities, he can understand Krishna and take to this Krishna consciousness movement. We therefore request everyone to abandon sinful activity and chant the Hare Krishna mantra. In this way, people can save themselves from repeated birth and death and from being killed like the animals in slaughterhouses. In this way, through the association of the great sage Narada Muni, the hunter was a little convinced of his sinful activity. He therefore became somewhat afraid due to his offenses. This is the effect of associating with a pure devotee. Our preachers who are preaching Krishna consciousness all over the world should follow in the footsteps of Narada Muni and become purified by following the four principles and chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. This will make them fit to become Vaishnavas. Then when they speak to sinful people about the teachings of this Krishna conscious movement, people will be affected and take the instructions. We receive instructions in devotional service through the disciplic succession. Narada Muni is our original guru because he is the spiritual master of Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva is the spiritual master of our disciplic succession. Therefore, we should follow in the footsteps of Narada Muni and become pure Vaishnavas. A pure Vaishnava is one who has no ulterior motive. He has totally dedicated himself to the service of the Lord. He does not have material desires, and he's not interested in so-called learning and philanthropic work. So-called learned scholars and philanthropists are actually karmis and jnanis, and some are actually misers engaged in sinful activity. All are condemned because they are not devotees of Lord Krishna. Everyone has a chance to become purified by associating with this Krishna consciousness movement and strictly following the rules and regulations. By chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, one can become free from all contamination, especially contamination brought about by the killing of animals. Lord Krishna himself requests Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Braja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshishami Ma Shuchaha. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful actions. Do not fear. We should take this instruction from Krishna, and follow in the footsteps of Narada Muni in the disciplic succession. If we simply surrender unto Krishna's lotus feet and take this Krishna consciousness movement seriously, we can be freed from the karma incurred by sin. If we are intelligent enough, we shall engage in the loving service of the Lord. Then our lives will be successful, and we shall not have to suffer like the hunter, life after life. By killing animals, not only will we be bereft of the human form, but we will have to take an animal form and somehow or other be killed by the same type of animal we have killed. This is the law of nature. The Sanskrit word mamsa means meat. It is said, mamsa gadati iti mamsa. That is, I am now eating the flesh of an animal who will someday in the future be eating my flesh. The hunter then admitted that he was convinced of his sinful activity. And he said, I have been taught this business from my very childhood. Now I am wondering how I can become freed from these unlimited volumes of sinful activity. Purport, this kind of admission is very beneficial as long as one does not again commit sin. Cheating and hypocrisy are not tolerated by higher authorities. If one understands what sin is, he should give it up with sincerity and regret and surrender unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his agent, the pure devotee. In this way, one can be freed from the reactions of sin and make progress in devotional service. However, if one continues committing sins after making some atonement, he will not be saved. In the Shastras, such atonement is compared to an elephant's bathing. An elephant takes a very good bath and cleanses its body very nicely, but as soon as it comes out of the water, it picks up some dust on the shore and throws it all over its body. Atonement may be carried out very nicely, but it will not help a person if he continues committing sins. Therefore, the hunter first admitted his sinful activity before the saintly person Narada, and then asked how he could be saved. The hunter continued, My dear sir, please tell me how I can be relieved from the reactions of my sinful life. Now I fully surrender unto you and fall down at your lotus feet. Please deliver me from sinful reactions. By the grace of Narada Muni, the hunter came to his good senses and immediately surrendered unto the saint's lotus feet. This is the process. By associating with a saintly person, one is able to understand the restrictions, the reactions of his sinful life. When one voluntarily surrenders to a saintly person who is a representative of Krishna and follows his instructions, one can become free from sinful reactions. Krishna demands the surrender of a sinful man, and Krishna's representative gives the same instructions. The representative of Krishna never tells his disciple, surrender unto me. Rather, he says, surrender unto Krishna. If the disciple accepts this principle and surrenders himself through the representative of Krishna, his life is saved. Narada Muni assured the hunter, if you listen to my instructions, I shall find the way you can be liberated. Gaurangera bhakta gane jana jani shakti dare. The purport of this song is that the devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are very powerful, and each and every one of them can deliver the whole world. What then to speak of Narada Muni? If one follows the instructions of Narada Muni, one can be delivered from any number of sinful reactions. This is the process. One must follow the instructions of a spiritual master. Then one will certainly be delivered from the sinful reactions, from all sinful reactions. This is the secret of success. Yasya Devi Para Bhaktir Yata Devi Tata Gurau. If one has unflinching faith in Krishna and the spiritual master, the result is Tasyaite Katita Hyarta Prakashante Mahātmā. All the conclusions of the revealed scriptures will be open to such a person. A pure devotee of Krishna can make the same demands that Narada Muni is making. He says, if you follow my instructions, I shall take responsibility for your liberation. A pure devotee like Narada can give assurance to any sinful man, because by the grace of the Lord, such a devotee is empowered to deliver any sinful person if that person follows the principles set forth. The hunter then said, my dear sir, whatever you say I shall do. Narada immediately ordered him, first of all, break your bow. Then I shall tell you what is to be done. This is the process of initiation. The disciple must vow that he will no longer commit sinful activity, namely illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. He promises to execute the order of the spiritual master. Then the spiritual master takes care of him and elevates him to spiritual emancipation. The hunter replied, if I break my bow, how shall I maintain myself? Narada Muni replied, do not worry, I shall supply all your food every day. The source of our income is not actually the source of our maintenance. Every living being, from the great Brahma down to the insignificant ant, is being maintained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Eko bahunam yovidadhati kaman. The one Supreme Being, Krishna, maintains everyone. Our so-called source of income is our own choice only. If I wish to be a hunter, it will appear that hunting is the source of my maintenance. If I become a brahmana and completely depend on Krishna, I do not conduct a business, but nonetheless my maintenance is supplied by Krishna. The hunter was disturbed about breaking his bow because he was worried about his income. Narada Muni assured the hunter because he knew that the hunter was not being maintained by the bow, but by Krishna. Being the agent of Krishna, Narada Muni knew very well that the hunter would not suffer by breaking the bow. There was no doubt that Krishna would supply him food. Being thus assured by the great sage Narada, the hunter broke his bow, immediately fell down at the saint's lotus feet, and fully surrendered. After this, Narada Muni raised him with his hand, and gave him instructions for spiritual advancement. This is the process of initiation. The disciple must surrender to the spiritual master, the representative of Krishna. The spiritual master, being in the disciplic succession stemming from Narada Muni, is in the same category with Narada Muni. A person can be relieved from his sinful activity if he surrenders to the lotus feet of a person who actually represents Narada Muni. Narada Muni gave instructions to the hunter after the hunter surrendered. Narada Muni then advised the hunter, return home and distribute whatever riches you have to the pure brahmanas who know the absolute truth. After you have distributed all your riches to the brahmanas, you and your wife should leave home, each taking only one cloth to wear. That should be the new standard. This is the process of renunciation at the stage of vanaprastha. After enjoying household life for some time, the husband and wife must leave home and distribute their riches to brahmanas and Vaishnavas. One can keep his wife as an assistant in the vanaprastha stage. The idea is that the wife will assist the husband in spiritual advancement. Therefore, Narada Muni advised the hunter to adopt the vanaprastha stage and leave home. It is not that a grihastha should live at home until he dies. Vanaprastha is preliminary to sannyas. In the Krishna consciousness movement, there are many young couples engaged in the Lord's service. Eventually, they are supposed to take vanaprastha. And after the vanaprastha stage, the husband may take sannyas in order to preach. The wife may then remain alone and serve the deity, or engage in other activities within the Krishna consciousness movement. Narada Muni continued, leave your home and go to the river. There you should construct a small cottage, and in front of the cottage you should grow a tulsi plant on a raised platform. After planting the tulsi tree before your house, you should daily circumambulate that tulsi plant, serve her by giving her water and other things, and continuously chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. This is the beginning of spiritual life. After leaving householder life, one may go to a holy place, such as the bank of the Ganges or Jamuna, and erect a small cottage. A small cottage can be constructed without any expenditure. 4 logs serving as pillars can be secured by any man from the forest. The roof can be covered with leaves, and one can cleanse the inside. Thus one can live very peacefully. In any condition, any man can live in a small cottage, plant a tulsi tree, water it in the morning, offer it prayers, and continuously chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Thus one can make vigorous spiritual advancement. This is not at all difficult. One simply has to follow the instructions of the spiritual master strictly. Then everything will be successful in due course of time. As far as eating is concerned, there is no problem. If Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, supplies everyone with eatables, why should he not supply his devotee? Sometimes the devotee will not even bother to construct a cottage. He will simply go to live in a mountain cave. One may live in a cave, in a cottage beside a river, or in a palace, or in a big city like New York or London. In any case, a devotee can follow the instructions of his spiritual master and engage in devotional service by watering the tulsi plant and chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Taking the advice of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and our spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, one can go to any part of the world and instruct people to become devotees of the Lord by following the regulative principles, worshipping the tulsi plant, and continuously chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Narada Muni continued, "Every day I shall send sufficient food to you both. You can take as much food as you want." When a person takes to Krishna consciousness, there is no need to care for material necessities. Krishna says, "Yoga kshemam baham yaham." I personally carry all necessities to my devotees. Why should one be anxious about the necessities of life? The principle should be that one should not want more than what is absolutely necessary. Narada Muni advises the hunter to accept only what is absolutely necessary for him and his wife. The devotee should always be alert to consume only those things that he absolutely requires and not create unnecessary needs. The three animals that were half killed were then brought to their consciousness by the sage Narada. Indeed, the animals got up and swiftly fled. When the hunter saw the half-killed animals flee, he was certainly struck with wonder. He then offered his respectful obeisances to the sage Narada and returned home. After all this, Narada Muni went to his destination. After the hunter returned, he exactly followed the instructions of his spiritual master, Narada. For spiritual advancement, one must have a bona fide spiritual master and follow his instructions in order to be assured of advancement. The news that the hunter had become a Vaishnava spread all over the village. Indeed, all the villagers brought alms and presented them to the Vaishnava who had formerly been a hunter. It is the duty of the public to present a gift to a saintly person, Vaishnava or Brahmin, when going to see him. Every Vaishnava is dependent on Krishna, and Krishna is ready to supply all of life's necessities, provided a Vaishnava follows the principles set forth by the spiritual master. There are certainly many householders in our Krishna consciousness movement. They join the movement and live in the society's centers, but if they take advantage of this opportunity and do not work, but live at the expense of the movement, eating prasadam and simply sleeping, they place themselves in a very dangerous position. It is therefore advised that grihastas should not live in the temple. They must live outside the temple and maintain themselves. Of course, if the grihastas are fully engaged in the Lord's service according to the directions of the authorities, there is no harm in their living in a temple. In any case, a temple should not be a place to eat and sleep. A temple manager should be very careful about these things. In one day, enough food was brought for 10 or 20 people, but the hunter and his wife would accept only as much as they could eat. One day, while speaking to his friend Parvat Muni, Narada Muni requested him to go with him to see his disciple, the hunter. As the saintly sages approached the hunter's place, the hunter could see them from a distance. With great alacrity, the hunter began to run toward his spiritual master, but he could not fall down and offer obeisances because the ants were running hither and thither around his feet. Seeing the ants, the hunter whisked them away with a piece of cloth. After thus clearing the ants from the ground, he fell down flat to offer obeisances. The word danda means rod or vat, and vat means like. To offer obeisances to the spiritual master, one must fall flat, exactly like a rod falls on the ground. This is the meaning of the word dandavat. Narada Muni said, "My dear hunter, such behavior is not at all astonishing. A man in devotional service is automatically nonviolent. He is the best of gentlemen." In this verse, the word sadhu varya means the best of gentlemen. At the present moment, there are many so-called gentlemen who are expert in killing animals and birds. Nonetheless, these so-called gentlemen profess a type of religion that strictly prohibits killing. According to Narada Muni and Vedic culture, animal killers are not even gentlemen, to say nothing of being religious men. A religious person, a devotee of the Lord, must be nonviolent. Such is the nature of a religious person. It is contradictory to be violent and at the same time call oneself a religious person. Such hypocrisy is not approved by Narada Muni and the disciplic succession. O hunter, good qualities like nonviolence which you have developed are not very astonishing, for those engaged in the Lord's devotional service are never inclined to give pain to others because of envy. From the Skanda Purana. The hunter then received the two sages in the courtyard of his house. He spread out a straw mat for them to sit upon, and with great devotion he begged them to sit down. He then fetched water and washed the sages' feet with great devotion. Then both husband and wife drank that water and sprinkled it on their heads. This is the process one should follow when receiving the spiritual master or someone on the level of the spiritual master. When the spiritual master comes to the residence of his disciples, the disciples should follow in the footsteps of the former hunter. It doesn't matter what one was before initiation. After initiation, one must learn the etiquette mentioned herein. When a hunter chanted the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra before his spiritual master, his body trembled and tears welled up in his eyes. Filled with ecstatic love, he raised his hands and began to dance, waving his garments up and down. When Parvat Muni saw the ecstatic, loving symptoms of the hunter, he told Narada, "Certainly you are a touchstone." Purport: when a touchstone touches iron, it turns iron to gold. Parvat Muni called Narada Muni a touchstone because, by his touch, the hunter, who is the lowest among men, became an elevated and perfect Vaishnava. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur said that the position of a Vaishnava can be tested by seeing how good a touchstone he is. That is, by seeing how many Vaishnavas he has made during his life. A Vaishnava should be a touchstone so that he can convert others to Vaishnavism by his preaching, even though people may be fallen like the hunter. There are many so-called Amaraknyaya Guru Hari Tara Edesh. It is Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's wish that everyone should become a Vaishnava and Guru, following the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his disciplic succession. One can become a spiritual master, for the process is very easy. One can go everywhere and anywhere to preach the instructions of Krishna. The Bhagavad Gita is Krishna's instructions. Therefore, the duty of every Vaishnava is to travel and preach the Bhagavad Gita, either in his country or a foreign country. This is the test of a Sparshamani, following in the footsteps of Narada Muni. Now we'll take a few reflections or questions. Devarata, right out of the blocks.
So this last and subsequent purport specifically regarding Mrigari the hunter is speaking about the transformational power of a devotee. And just analyzing the history of the Krishna consciousness movement, it looks like when Prabhupada was on the planet, there was a surge of devotees in the West, Europe and America specifically. And India really struggled. Now there's a surge of devotees in India, and it's a struggle in America. So the preaching activities, is there a timing factor as to when Krishna wants to elevate a particular place? And because it seems like we try so hard, we create so many systems, we do so much, but sometimes it's just like a little drop. We get like one person every few years that's really coming to the standard of what Prabhupada is expecting in his books. And then we have an array of other people who are appreciative of the Krishna consciousness movement. So is there a timing factor as to when certain areas become elevated and when others don't get elevated?
Well, Prabhupada's timing was impeccable for the West. It wasn't so good in the East. In fact, I was listening to Prabhupada this morning, and he was talking about the American devotees preaching. He was talking about his householders going to London. And he mentioned how there were no Indians. He said there's only one Indian, me. And And I remember coming to India in the 70s, and the Indians looked at us like, aren't you going the wrong direction? We're going towards America. You're coming here, putting on a dhoti. Yeah. And so, yeah, timing is definitely a thing. But those beans are too. What are those beans that Gujaratis eat sometimes? Those big beans? What's it called? Rajma. It's the Rajma factor. If you give Rajma to Americans, they'll never come back. At least I won't. Rajma scares people. It's scary. Huh? Because it's, yeah, well, it's the Rajma factor. You have to create an environment where people come in and see stuff that is familiar to them, called habitat. The more the habitat is friendly, the more people can come. But there's definitely a timing factor. And also, seeds never go in vain. You can be planning and then think nothing happened. And then when the timing is right, then the fruits of all the of the planting of seeds will come. Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, thank you. 3 points of discussion. Feel free to choose whichever one you like. The first one, the source of your income is not the source of your maintenance. Point number 2, did Mrigari have to see that miracle of the animals getting away healthy? Because sometimes people expect miracles from sadhus, and that kind of, creates some sort of faith. And the third topic is the Vanaprastha ashrama, which is depicted in the Bhagavatam, not literally possible to implement nowadays. So the one cloth, or the not combing and not shaving, etc. So some guidelines. Feel free to choose whichever one of the 3 you feel inspired to speak on.
Oh, one must do one's due diligence, but understand that everything comes from Krishna. Balasyane hasharanam pitaro nishinghan nartasya chaganamudanmati majato no tasya pratividir yaihan sheshtas tavad bibo tanubutam twarupekshitanam. So Prahlad Maharaj says that parents can't save their children. A doctor using medicine can't save the patient. And a boat on water can't save a drowning man unless they're sanctioned by the Lord. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, still we do our due diligence, but we have a clear understanding that it's coming from Krishna. And if one is absorbed in Krishna consciousness in any ashram or in the grahastha ashram, then as Krishna says in the Gita, ananyas chintayantamam ye jana pariyapastate tesham nityabhyuktanam yogakshema mahamyaham. For those who are enlivened and preaching Krishna consciousness, there's no scarcity. It's supplied directly by Krishna's hand. And the second one was about, and it was questioned, does it really come from Krishna? Do you have to miracle? Well, one way you could look at it is Narada was relieving some of his anxiety because he just said, you killed these guys, and then he felt so bad that he set them free and they were alive. He didn't want to stress out his new disciple too much. And the third one was, what about, the Vanaprastha ashram is ashram where one can prepare for the last leg of the race. In a mile race, on a 440 track, you do 4 laps, from what I remember. It's 1 mile. And the last lap is called the bell lap. And that's when they have a guy standing there, because when you're running that long of a race, it's easy to get disoriented and not know what's happening, which lap you're on. So when you get to you finish the 3rd lap and you're just about to start the 4th, there's a guy standing with a big bell and he goes ring like that in track and field. And then you know this is the last lap. So for those who are noticing there's an arc, a natural arc to one's life physically and mentally, it's a good idea to plan for the race and see that one is ready for the last lap. And to that end, it's a good time and a natural time to divest oneself of any kind of unnecessary attachments. There can be the winnowing out of the things one's collected over the years. Can be the making a financial plan that's viable, making sure that leaving your assets, have an estate planner go over your assets and make sure they're allocated properly, because when people pass, there's chaos unless somebody has taken the time to make an estate plan and also allocated who gets all their stuff. That kind of goes in the estate plan, but that's just responsible life. There's a book called the Swedish, what's it called, Nirkul? We're reading it right now. You got to use the mic. It's a shocking name, so don't get freaked out.
The Swedish Art of Death Cleaning.
The Swedish Art of Death Cleaning. We just read that book recently because it just talks about how responsible human beings start getting rid of all their unnecessary stuff and getting all their affairs in order so that when they die, it's not a huge burden on everybody else. And that type of thinking is quite natural at the end, and it's quite enlivening too, to start getting down to the basics and not having any distractions, so you can give your full concentration in the last lap of your life. And also, there's a need for mature devotees who have lived their lives, who have fought all the battles, who have maintained their sadhana at the same time gone through the rigors of living in the world, who can help steady and advise others and give coaching to people who are in the younger years of their life. And that's an important part of the Varnashram system and of our overall community, is to have those types of devotees who are available to counsel and just to set an example and so forth. So the Vanaprastha ashram is an up-and-coming ashram. I've been talking about it for a while now, that although we emphasize the brahmacharya ashram, the grahastha ashram, the sannyasa ashram, whatever happened to the poor little Vanaprastha ashram? My only main contention is that if you take Vanaprastha, you also get to get rid of the flap in the back, the tail. You know what I mean? In the dhoti? Yeah, Vanaprasthas should not have to wear a tail. And we're not sure about that ugly yellow color either. Prabhu? You what? He's so bona fide.
Maharaj, coming to the big point which Devavrat Prabhu was making, because ultimately it is a pure devotee who can give bhakti, and even Krishna doesn't interfere Krishna is completely subservient to the pure deity. So, is it also that the purity and the level of pure devotion which can influence and expand the preaching?
That can influence that. That's the main thing. Purity is the force. One has to be pure to have potency. And purity comes down especially to one's resolution that one's surrendered to Krishna and surrendered to the spiritual master. If somebody has that resolution, then the words that they speak are extremely potent. And the example that they set is exemplary. No, sorry. The example they set is important. People will notice if somebody is surrendered. So yeah, purity is the force. If you have spiritual integrity, and that is that you're fully invested and your full intention is to surrender to Krishna, and you're surrendering to Krishna, then that's where the power comes from. Yes.
Hare Krishna. We read in the story of Mrgarya and Narad Muni, when Narad Muni first sees him, the first instruction that he gives is, I want you to fully kill these animals, where he seems to be making a concession in order to meet him where he's at right now. And so my question is, we see sometimes Srila Prabhupada also has made certain similar statements in a particular context where if someone is maybe not yet ready for some higher instruction, he may have made some similar kind of concession in the same way that Narad Muni gave to Mrgari. And so my question is, could we also interpret those instructions in a similar way where we don't take them to be our general principle, understanding that it was just for a particular person to meet them where they're at?
Yes, that would be wise to do that. And it's one of the points that Narada Muni made to Vyasadeva, who talked about prayaschitta and other kind of concessions throughout the literatures that he edited and brought forth. And that is that people take advantage of them. Better give the straightforward thing. One thing is that practically everybody has complexities in their life, and that's why it's important to have good guidance. We have Prabhupada's books, we have his instructions and so forth, but on a day-to-day basis, how to apply those and how to make concessions when there's a concession needed so that you can make a comeback if you need to, or if you need to have, for that you have to have personal guidance. That's why it's really important to have those mature devotees who you can call upon at different times of your life or even different times of the day to get an idea of how to best balance one's life so that one can complete the whole course of one's life in Krishna consciousness without becoming distracted or diverted. Oh, outside people's party? Anything. Sri Ram.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, this congregation terminology I heard during Prabhupada's time, it was devotees staying in temple, basically doing temple services. Now the congregation staying outside working and contributing to the movement. So there is a change in psychology of this congregation naming. Is it true, like how it was before?
How was it before?
In Prabhupada's time, I heard congregation means staying in temple, working full time for movement. Now the congregation means staying outside, have their own jobs.
For some time, nobody lived outside. In fact, it was a rarity. And then when a few people did live outside, it was an anomaly. considered an anomaly, not by Prabhupada so much, but by the devotees, because they were all used to living inside the temple. And there were some arrangements in larger communities like Los Angeles where there were apartments right across from the temple, and then there were ways that they could buy groceries directly from the temple and things like that. And in any temple I was in, it was 99% of the people lived in the temple. For instance, San Francisco, there was a brahmacharya ashram and a brahmacharya ashram. Chicago, same thing. New York City, 340 West 55th, 14-story building, 300 devotees lived in there, and they all lived in the temple. And they all came to Mangalarti too, 300 devotees every day. So it was, then some devotees, very few, but they would work outside and lived outside. I remember Trey Rishi, he was a householder and he was a GBC, but he was a businessman. Gopal Krishna Maharaj at first he had a family, lived outside, he was a businessman. And those were rarities at that time. There's a video and a lecture. It's a lecture, I think. Maybe there's a video too, but it's in Detroit. And Prabhupada was visiting there, and there was a room full of a couple hundred devotees, a sea of saffron. White was very uncommon, mostly saffron in those days. And there was one man there who lived outside. And he very sheepishly said to Prabhupada, all these devotees live in here and they're doing service and they're serving you. So what can I do? I live outside with my family. And Prabhupada said, this temple is made of brick and stone. Your house is made of brick and stone. In the temple, the business is for Krishna. If in your house the business is for Krishna, no difference. Nonetheless, because of human psychology and sociological trends, those who did live outside were disparaged. In fact, there was a nickname for them called fringies, because they were on the fringe. I don't know who made that up, fringies, but it was just common vocabulary to me when I joined. It's like, oh, he's a fringy. Oh, he's a fringy, huh? You want any more stories? Okay, go ahead. Nitya Tarangani, please go.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. We have 23 devotees watching online.
Hare Hare.
There is one question and 2 reflections. The question is from Vamshuli Prabhu. Hare Krishna, dear Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances. How to fully forgive those who insult us or obstruct our seva when we are still unable to overcome feelings of pain and anger?
You could take Mahātmā Prabhu's seminar on how to forgive. There's so many, lots of people have spoken about forgiveness. Mahātmā Prabhu in the devotee context talks about it, but one thing is, forgiving doesn't mean that you condone what people have done. But forgiving is for you to let it go so that you can move on. And Prabhupada gave an instruction to Peter Burwash. He was a businessman who ran Peter Burwash International. It was a big, huge tennis company. Taught people how to play tennis. He was a devotee, but he never got initiated. And in Hawaii, he got a lot of association with Prabhupada. He signed up as a life member one afternoon, and the next morning he found out that the devotee he gave his money to had absconded. And he became so disturbed and angry, and he went to talk to Prabhupada about it. And Prabhupada gave him this instruction that he kept to the rest of his life. And he used to give seminars, and he would always start with this instruction. And Prabhupada said, don't be angry with the instrument of your karma. And he took it to heart. So if one takes whatever happens. Doesn't mean, of course, that you don't do due diligence. If somebody has abused you or is bullying you, you have to do your due diligence. It doesn't mean to become a doormat to forgive. But internally, one can become highly philosophical and think that whatever comes to me, it's by Krishna's arrangement. Perhaps I'm paying back a debt from my last life, and Krishna gives this permission, or the Shastra does, to take it as a lesson and just let it go. So it takes a little practice and some philosophical underpinning. And anything else, Nitya Charangani?
There are 2 reflections. Can I read them?
Yes, please.
The first one is from Christopher Stilwell. This is from the morning session. He said, just woke up in Brighton, UK, straight on to Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Yay.
My life has true meaning, true value. So grateful. All glories to all you dear assembled devotees.
Haribo, Hari Hari.
The next one is from His Grace Divyanga Prabhu. He's saying, tell it, brother.
Tell it, brother.
We have one reflection in Sanskrit, so I'm not sure I can read it though.
Okay.
It's about Giridhari, Sri Giridhari Ji.
Somebody want to read it?
Manakala nata tamo vidari vanshi ravkarita tat kumari raso taso wo dve lal rasa badha di sari mama Prabhu Sri Giriraj Dhari Mat Dvipa Dham Gata Nukumari Lutha Prasanno Prapa Din Harera Morari Sasparsa Kar Prasari Mam Prabhu Shri Giriraj Ji Dhari.
Giriraj Maharaj ki. We'll take a little break. We'll be back here at 20 minutes after. Hare Krishna.